Hey YouTube, it's Robert back with another video, and in today's video I'm actually coming to you guys right here from my very own kitchen to talk about remodeling small spaces. You know, sometimes having a smaller space can present some challenges. It can also present some, huge advantages. One largely being that, it takes less money to remodel a smaller area than it does to remodel a larger area. So what I want to talk about today are some of the specific kind of design tips that I can give you to try and make the most of a small area to enhance the feel of the area, as well as just some of the specific reasons why I picked some of the products that I did for my own kitchen. However, I'm not here to make any specific recommendations about certain types of products or certain design styles. My own home is a reflection of my personal tastes, and you may not love the particular style that I went with, but some of the principal ideas will still hold true. For example, I myself am not a huge fan of 3x6 white subway tiles for kitchen backsplashes, but what's the number one product that I do kitchen backsplashes with for my clients? 3x6 white subway tiles. So I don't want to get into too much of specific recommendations for any styles. One of the things that I always tell people, don't try to turn a house into something that it's not. Work within the general elements and features that made the house unique, whether it be a new build that you're just wanting to completely remodel and make it your own right out of the gate, or it's a home that has aged gracefully and maybe has been changed by 2 or 3 other people over the course of its life. I'm a big proponent of embracing what the house is, fitting a style to it, and not trying to turn it into something other than what it already kind of caters to. So with that in mind, guys, I'm going to go ahead and show you some pictures of the house from the listing when I bought it 5 years ago, and go over some of the things that I felt needed to be changed immediately for me to kind of open the space up, make it feel a little bit larger, and turn it into what I wanted it to be, and how I arrived to the way that it is now. So before we jump right into it, guys, I'm going to go ahead and give you a friendly request to smash that like button for me. Comment down below with any questions that you might have at the end of this video, comments, criticisms, or anything that you'd like to see me maybe make a video on in the future. And then certainly be sure to subscribe if you would like to see more content from me. Alright, so looking at this first photo here, we have a pretty stereotypical galley kitchen. It's very narrow. There's really only about 5 feet between the refrigerator side and this island here. It's a little bit deceiving because a wide angle lens was used to make this space look bigger when the listing agent put the photos up, but it's a pretty narrow space, and because it has the soffit with the hanging cabinets over the peninsula side, it makes it really feel detached from the rest of the main area of this home. I'm not a real tall guy, I'm 5'6", but even I had to kind of peek below these hanging cabinets to look over to the dining room, and I really felt like it would benefit from being tied a little bit more to the rest of the area, as opposed to it feeling like you entered the kitchen and it was its own space. And primarily the hanging cabinets are what created that effect, because it just closed it off a lot from the rest of the area and the dining room specifically. Another really interesting thing here, you can see there's actually 2 textures on the ceiling. So again, we draw a very strong line that's kind of creating more of an isolated feel in the kitchen. So I scraped down the popcorn ceilings, retextured the whole area, and just was always looking for areas that I could create continuity and flow from one room over to the next. So eliminating those hanging cabinets, eliminating the popcorn ceilings, and stretching that out with the same texture across the whole ceiling really helped to bring the 2 rooms together. Now I will say for the flooring that it already was the same flooring throughout all the areas, which I'm definitely an advocate for, because again it allows spaces to flow from one to the other seamlessly, and instead of having 2 or 3 smaller, more defined rooms, you allow that to become a little bit more muddled and for it to feel more like a great room environment, as opposed to smaller areas. When you have a really large area, you may want to actually create smaller areas to bring in some sense of a coziness. But when you have a small space and you're trying to enlarge in it, you actually want to eliminate the feel of those smaller detached rooms and have more of an open space. So, you know, it's not that there's a right or a wrong, but we can achieve different things with those different techniques. Now you'll also notice over on the refrigerator side there is a soffit that the cabinets are hanging down about 12 inches from the ceiling on that side as well. That is what we would call a false soffit. There's nothing in that space at all, and so it was really just created to have symmetry from that side to the other so that the cabinets were hanging at the same height on both sides. But otherwise there was nothing that was in there. There was nothing that I needed to worry about, you know, ductwork or anything like that. So I just immediately demolished that whole thing so that I could gain that additional 12 inches, make it feel a little bit taller in there, and again kind of heighten and enlarge the kitchen. Another thing I thought was kind of interesting, the kitchen here has a ceiling fan. The dining room right next to it actually did not have a ceiling fan, just had a pendant light. So I wanted to eliminate that ceiling fan in the kitchen, and I put canned lights in, which I'll show you guys here in a second. Another major point that I'll make, white cabinets are definitely, you know, about the most popular style, but this beadboard white cabinetry that you see here, not, you know, my taste. It was thermofoil cabinets, and not great thermofoil at that, so they weren't actually, you know, painted wood. They were a vinyl wrapped cabinet, and you know, on closer inspection, the vinyl was starting to peel in certain areas. The boxes, the drawers were all, you know, stapled construction. You know, they're not like dovetail drawers. They didn't have full extension glides, so there was some things to be improved upon in the cabinets. And then certainly on the countertops, there was a lot to be improved upon with the laminate kind of beigey toned tops. So that was, you know, in my mind, really constituted a complete gut job for this kitchen to kind of update it and bring it to, you know, 2016 or 2015 actually, when I bought this home. Alright, and here we have the kitchen from another angle that shows how it meets up against the dining area. Again, you'll notice the popcorn ceiling that's above the dining area, the pendant light, you know, the lack of a ceiling fan in there. And you can really see how much it kind of limits the ability from the kitchen to be able to interact with anybody that's sitting in the dining room. So those hanging cabinets really just don't do it for me, guys. And that was, you know, why I wanted to show you this particular angle, so you can see how we're trying to go from having the feel of two distinct areas into, you know, one larger area. Alright, and here we have our current kitchen. As you notice, I've now created much more of a flow and tied the kitchen and the dining room together so that when I'm entertaining, when I'm having friends over, there's no need for me to feel like I have to, you know, exit one area and then enter the other. They feel much more brought together at this point, and that was just strictly opening up that hanging cabinet area in the center over the peninsula. That in and of itself was a night and day difference. Some of the other things that I used to make this feel like a larger space was, again, eliminating those soffits and allowing the full line of sight into the corners of the room. On the fridge side, you know, that soffit basically went all the way down to that very top shelf and was just dead space that was created there. So I broke all that open, and now you can see into the absolute corners of the room, and it just allows to utilize all of the space that was available in this room. Now, I didn't have to, you know, move walls or anything. I was just strictly removing that dead space that was brought there. Once I eliminated the cabinets from the other side, I no longer needed to have that symmetry between the two. The other thing, speaking of the shelves, is you'll notice I didn't decide to go back with upper cabinets. Again, I wanted to be able to see all the way to the wall. And so by having the cabinets there, you know, again, we're bringing the room in and we're blocking out our line of sight into the far reaches of the room. So by putting the shelves up, we're able to now see all of that wall. You know, it kind of displays things a little bit differently. So you may have, you know, your own opinions about how well shelves work for you functionally versus cabinets. But, you know, for me, it was something that I was able to build these myself. I wanted to add a little bit of a natural touch to some of the modern flair that I put in there with the black cabinets, the white countertops, and the gray paint. And so what I did was I used a natural wood for those shelves. I brought in some hardware that had, you know, just enough of a industrial feel, and then I balanced that with a little bit more of a rustic, natural colored laminate floor from Mohawk Flooring, and that to me kind of helped create a little bit of warmth and a little bit more of a natural feel to balance out the kind of more sterile elements that sometimes modern can bring in, and certainly what gray can bring in. So that's why I've kind of got those touches of the natural wood to balance out with my black, my white, and my gray, my stainless steel. And that's just, again, that's, you know, my personal taste, but that's the logic behind why I did that. I also went with a taller baseboard. You know, what was in there before was about 2.5 inches. This is now 4.25 inch, so about doubled the size of those baseboards. And, you know, I really could have gone taller with these. I tell people all the time, even with lower ceilings, a lot of those low ceilinged rooms benefit from a taller base. It kind of stretches things up and, again, almost creates a lengthening effect. So don't necessarily be afraid of having a taller baseboard, even if you don't have, you know, these high vaulted ceilings. Now here is another angle of the kitchen that I just wanted to be able to show you a little bit more specifically what the countertop and backsplash setup, or lack thereof, was. And I have this beautiful paper white quartz countertop that I am absolutely pleased with. This was actually a Samsung product and was a more or less remnant slab that I was able to pick up from my fabrication site. I really was after a solid white, so I kind of lucked out that they had a really nice one there, and I've been very pleased with it overall. You know, in terms of countertops, I prefer quartz over granite myself. I think, you know, it is a lower maintenance product. Obviously, if you've watched my other video I uploaded here recently about Cambria countertops, I do love their product, but for me, I kind of lucked out and was able to get a great value on the exact look that I wanted in just a solid white quartz countertop. And then the reason I didn't use any type of a tiled backsplash was because I was doing the open shelving and using those brackets. I didn't want to bother with having to, you know, drill into the tiled backsplash for all of those. And I used the dark gray paint accent in a couple different spots. It's actually also on the underside of the peninsula, and I did a little bit of the trim out between the kitchen dining area and then the family room. So it kind of, to me, was able to tie those three accents together really nicely, and it just, again, helped to really accentuate the shelves. So that's my logic on that part. You know, but tile backsplash is great. One of the reasons I often like the tile backsplashes is when they're behind a stove, as far as just being able to clean up the splatter from anything you happen to be cooking. But in my particular instance, my stove is on the peninsula side, so I don't really have that issue so much to contend with. And then originally, you know, I didn't have the shelves on the peninsula side, but that wall just felt very bare, and I wanted to kind of open that up and use that as my separate little, you know, coffee bar and tea station. And, you know, I've been really pleased with the addition there. Again, sometimes with small kitchens, you don't have a ton of space to put certain things, so you know, where you can justify adding a little bit of shelving or storage, it's certainly nice. Okay guys, so to bring it all home, what were kind of some of the key takeaways from this? Well, hopefully I emphasized enough that when we're dealing with a small room, we definitely benefit by helping tie it to the rooms next to it, so that we eliminate the feeling of 2 or 3 smaller areas and create more of a feeling of one larger area. So where I had this galley kitchen, blasting open that hanging cabinet area and tying it into the dining room was definitely one way for me to kind of bridge the gap between the two and make them feel more like one space. The other thing that we were trying to do is create more of a line of sight into the corners of the room. So where I had that soffit and the hanging cabinets that were bringing it in, by eliminating those and being able to see all the way to the back wall, I gained the appearance of a deeper and taller kitchen. The shelves for me really helped to open this area up. I personally love shelves. Again, the functionality being a separate conversation to be had, that's one way that we can create the feel of a larger area. One of the other main elements, guys, that can make an area feel larger or smaller really has to do with lighting. So by adding canned lights in this room and having a white cabinet for all that light to kind of reflect off the top of, I'm again able to make it feel a little bit brighter and more open in here. Even though I have the dark espresso shaker cabinets, the light top is what's really getting the majority of that light and allowing it to just kind of brighten the space up a lot. That coupled with the fact that I used a lighter natural shelf, a lighter gray for my paint, that's trying to kind of maximize the ability of the light to work within the other tones that I otherwise wanted to use. And then lastly, guys, I want to just again point out that this kitchen is a reflection of my own personal tastes. So when I'm selecting the particular products that I'm putting in here, it's all based on what I personally like. I love the natural shelves. You know, for you that may not be your thing at all, but I'm not trying to endorse any specific products or any specific brands or even any specific design styles, as much as I am just trying to give you some key pointers as to how we can work with a smaller space and encourage you to realize that if you do have a smaller space, you can find a solution that you personally love. There's a lot of little things that we can do that we can make the most out of whatever that space kind of is designed for. You know, we can't always turn a house into a completely new floor plan, but we can open some things up, we can get creative, and we can make a space that we love and we enjoy coming home to. And with that, I also want to re-emphasize another mistake I think people make when they're remodeling, and that is they give a little bit too much thought to what's currently trending or what they think is going to be best for resale down the road, as opposed to what they personally really love. And I'm not saying that resale value is not an important consideration, but it's definitely not worth you compromising what you like for the foreseeable future based on what might be popular and what somebody else might like down the road, 5-6 years even. And the reason that we call things trendy or we talk about trends is, you know, because they change. So you don't know what somebody's gonna like down the road, and it's really important that while you're living in your home, it's something that you look forward to coming home to and using on a day-to-day basis. Alright, so if you found today's video helpful, entertaining, informative, I would certainly appreciate it if you smash that like button for me and comment down below with any thoughts that you have, any other questions, and any future content that you'd like to see me make a video on. If you're going to do that though, make sure that you subscribe to see more videos from me. And until next time, have a great day.